Good evening. You're watching the news at 7:30 on ATV. I'm Edna.
And I'm Brittyn Clennett. Here's a look at tonight's top stories.
Taiwan in crisis as police crack down on anti-Beijing student protesters who occupied government headquarters.
New hope in hunt for missing Malaysian airliner as China and Australia spot more suspected wreckage.
Democratic Party in trouble as veteran lawmaker loses district council by-election to untested pro-Beijing rival. Taiwan is facing a domestic crisis after dozens were arrested and more than 100 injured in a police crackdown on student protesters who stormed the main government building in Taipei last night.
Many remain out in the streets today, promising to keep up their campaign against a controversial trade deal between Taiwan and the mainland. ATV's Arthur Akiola reports.
Defiant protesters remained on the streets of Taipei this morning, even after a major operation to remove them from the Taiwanese government's headquarters, the Executive Yuan building, descended into violence and chaos overnight. More clashes broke out between police and demonstrators, most of them university students, protesting against their government's controversial deal with the mainland to free up trade. Police resorted to using water cannon to disperse the protesters. The crackdown began just before midnight, as about 2,000 police officers were brought in to remove demonstrators who occupied the compound last night. The protesters locked arms to resist and had to be dragged away one by one. Reports quoted organizers at the already besieged Parliament building a block away as saying the demonstrators at the executive compound were from a different group than the ones kept inside the main chamber of the Legislative Yuan since last Tuesday. Police used water cannon on the demonstrators at the executive compound last night as well. There were more scuffles as they were forcibly removed. About 60 protesters forced their way through windows into the building and offices on the second floor and barricaded doors with furniture. However, officials later denied reports that the demonstrators broke into the office of the island's premier and insisted no confidential documents or information on computers had been compromised. Among the scores injured in the clashes, many were bloodied and suffered bone fractures, protest leaders said. Embattled Taiwan President Ma Ying-jeou ordered the crackdown last night, saying the occupation of government headquarters was illegal and hampering the work of his administration. The Beijing-friendly Taiwanese leader has signed a series of landmark economic deals with the mainland, and he's insisting his latest pact is critical, not only for the competitiveness of the island's exports, but also to enter a bigger trade deal among 12 countries, spearheaded by the U.S. But his opponents fear it will hit smaller businesses and threaten the island's democracy by allowing Beijing to exert more influence over Taiwan affairs through investments in key industries. They also accuse Ma's ruling Kuomintang party of using undemocratic tactics to rush the deal through parliament. Arthur Akiola, ATV News.
Taiwan's embattled government is appealing to the public not to join a strike planned by students opposing the trade deal with the mainland.
Officials have denied using excessive force against protesters and insist that the crackdown was justified. ATV's Emily Sue reports.
After last night's violent clashes at the Taiwanese government headquarters in Taipei, the island's president Ma Ying-jeou held an emergency meeting this morning with his top officials to discuss the crisis. Premier Jiang Yihua later called the violence regretful and heartbreaking. He shot down accusations of excessive force, insisting police had no choice but to take action. Opposition to cross-strait trade deal at the center of the crisis was not an excuse to paralyze the execution of the government's duties, he said. Jiang dismissed comparisons between the protests and the Tiananmen Square crackdown on student protesters in 1989, calling it a gross distortion. More than 100 people were injured in the clashes. About half were police and the rest were protesters. Many suffered head injuries which they claimed were caused by officers' batons. This demonstrator complained that police went too far when they hit him with batons, which caused a 1.5 centimeter gash on his head. The chairman of the opposition Democratic Progressive Party visited the injured in hospital. Su Tseng-Cheng condemned President Ma for not properly addressing the protesters' concerns sooner to avoid violence. This morning, demonstrators made their way from the government compound back to the parliament building a block away, where hundreds have been camped out since Tuesday night. Hundreds of them are still occupying the main chamber, which they've barricaded from inside since last Tuesday. Students from 28 groups condemned the violence today, calling on police not to abuse their power and further escalate tensions. They are also calling for a nationwide strike from students and businesses, demanding the administration reject the trade agreement. The government is appealing to its citizens not to heed the call for a strike. But for the moment, a similar crackdown to clear those at the parliament compound is unlikely, as the government appears to be leaving it to the politicians to sort this one out. Emily Sue, ATV News.
Planes scouring the choppy waters off Western Australia have ended another day's search after failing to find any trace of the Malaysia Airlines plane that went missing more than 2 weeks ago.
Hopes were raised earlier today after Chinese and Australian surveillance planes spotted floating objects in the southern Indian Ocean. Planes from 5 countries, including China, returned to the Western Australian city of Perth this evening after another fruitless search for the Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777, which went missing 16 days ago. Flight MH370 was carrying 239 people, 104 of them Chinese nationals, when it disappeared without a trace about an hour after leaving Kuala Lumpur for Beijing. After a series of false alarms, followed by sightings of suspected wreckage from the plane, which was described as credible but have yet to prove true, China raised hopes of a breakthrough again today. A Chinese military aircraft reported spotting 2 relatively big floating objects in the southern Indian Ocean off Perth. The plane also spotted smaller white objects spread over several kilometres. At present, we are unable to confirm whether the floating objects are related to the missing passenger plane, said Foreign Ministry spokesman Hong Lei, who added that China and its search partners are trying to analyse aerial photographs. Australian planes also spotted a greenish circular object and a rectangular orange item floating near the same area.
The Prime Minister received a call from the Prime Minister of Australia, who informed him that an Australian search aircraft had located 2 objects in the Australian search area, 1 circular and 1 rectangular.
The Malaysian plane's last contact with ground control crew was just before it was due to cross into Vietnamese airspace. As a result, the search in the early days of its disappearance was in the South China Sea, but the focus switched west when Malaysia later said the plane turned back and could have continued flying for several more hours in a northern or southern arc. Planes were sent to an area 2,500 kilometres southwest of Perth after Australian, Chinese and French satellites picked up images of suspicious objects in the sea. Japan, which is locked in a territorial dispute with Beijing, has sent planes to help Chinese, Australian, US and New Zealand search aircraft. China has also deployed its icebreaker ship, the Xulong. With the turbulent waters of the Indian Ocean posing a problem, the agony for grief-stricken relatives continues. In Beijing, anguished family members demanded answers during a meeting with the Malaysian ambassador. It's already been so many days and there are no clues, said this man whose son was on the flight. Can such a big plane not be found? Malaysia's flag carrier suffered another blow when a plane travelling from Kuala Lumpur to Seoul was forced to make an emergency landing in Hong Kong early this morning. It's believed the electricity generator on flight MH066 failed and the Airbus A330 was diverted to Chek Lap Kok at around 3 a.m. The plane landed without incident and the 271 passengers were transferred to other carriers. The Democratic Party has suffered a troubling defeat, with one of its veteran lawmakers losing the Southern District Council by-election to a lesser-known pro-Beijing rival.
The by-election has also exposed the growing rift between the Democrats and their radical allies, which is benefiting their rivals. There was relief for Judy Chan of the New People's Party when she was declared winner in the Southern District Council by-election. Just seconds earlier, Erica Yoon, chairwoman of the Radical People Power Party, burst into tears, thinking she had won after it was announced that she had secured 1,083 votes. But the euphoria was premature as Chan, her pro-business rival, received 2,023 votes. Veteran Democratic Party legislator Sin Chung-kai trailed in third with only 920 votes. The results in the South Horizon's West constituency were announced shortly after midnight at a community centre where the ballots were counted when polling ended at 10:30 last night. Just over half of the 7,600 registered voters cast their ballots for the seat vacated by former Democratic Party member Andrew Fung, who angered the Pan-Democrats by applying for a government job and taking over as the chief executive's information coordinator. For the Democratic Party, it was the loss of a seat to a pro-Beijing rival party, but it was also evidence of a growing rift in the Pan-Democratic camp. Despite losing, Yoon said she hailed her performance as a victory because she received more ballots than the Democratic Party candidate. Yoon claimed that people are leaning more towards her radical party and are forsaking the moderate Democrats, who are seen as having sold out. People Power has accused the Democrats of betraying their cause after reaching a compromise with the government, which led to the creation of the super seats in the 2012 LegCo elections. Since then, the Radical Party has challenged the Democrats in district council polls. Sin, who finished far behind the winning candidate in South Horizon's West, described the result as unexpected and a very bad loss. He said political issues such as the debate over nominations for the next chief executive election, his own campaign style and Fung's controversial move to join the government may have contributed to his defeat. The lawmakers said the Democratic Party will conduct a thorough evaluation of the results. The winning candidate, who secured more votes than the total of her two Pan-Democrat rivals, attributed her victory to her devotion to issues in the district. Chan described herself as a low-profile candidate who had to work extra hard to beat her better-known opponents. Players from the banned Happy Valley Football Club are claiming about $100,000 in unpaid wages.
They say they have not been paid since the First Division side was suspended last month over a match-fixing investigation. ATV's Bolong reports.
Radical lawmaker Leung Kwok Hung accompanied a group of players from First Division Football Club Happy Valley to the Labour Department office in Jiangshawan this morning to help them claim unpaid wages. Last month, the Hong Kong Football Association banned Happy Valley for the rest of the season after the ICAC launched a match-fixing probe. The club's players are complaining they have not been paid since the ban, and they're demanding more than $100,000, which they claim is owed to them. The footballers said they have spoken to the club and its sponsor, but were not able to get a straight answer. They accused the sponsor of dragging its feet over the money issue. Player Chan Cham-hei said they aren't even sure who's responsible for their wages. It wasn't until after their pay was stopped that they started to question if it was the sponsor or the club that forked out the money. Chan said the match-fixing claims and the unpaid wages have taken a toll on the players and their families. He added that the sponsor has yet to keep a promise to send a representative to talk to the players. They are now pinning their hopes on the Labour Department to solve their problem. In January, the ICAC arrested 6 Happy Valley players and a club official for allegedly throwing a match against rival club Sun Hei. Another First Division club, Two Mun, were also suspended from all games following allegations of match-fixing when a player scored an own goal in the closing seconds of a match, which they lost in December. Bolong, ATV News.
Still to come on ATV's main news tonight. Barcelona and Real Madrid share 7 goals in thrilling match between formidable rivals.
Andy Murray overcomes heat and opponent to reach last 16 of Miami Open.
I haven't done a single thing wrong in almost 24 hours.
Nothing wrong? Then how to handle these headaches? Relationship crisis.
Why does everything smell like onions?
money temptation.
We sold the cakes twice.
And especially struggling with a weird father.
What do you gentlemen do?
We work for the FBI, female body inspectors.
30 Rock, tonight at 8:30. Find out Britain's top antiques enthusiast. To be one step closer to becoming an antiques master. Contestants are eager to show their talents. Now, the competition starts. Antiques Master, Series 1, Friday night at 9.
To prevent avian flu, you should wash hands frequently, maintain a clean environment, and ensure good ventilation. Cover mouth and nose with tissue paper when coughing or sneezing, and dispose of soiled tissue paper properly in a lidded rubbish bin. Then, wash hands immediately. People with flu symptoms, caregivers of patients, and visitors of hospitals or clinics should wear a mask. And avoid crowded places.
Take action now!
You're living in such a fascinating world. Beyond imagination. Cameras can help you catch it. Take a close-up or wide angle. Every extraordinary moment is the marvel of super cameras. All about documentary. Super Cameras 3, tonight at 10. Soccer Fever, Amazing March, live on World Channel. Watch the live show on your phone and ATV website. Want to promote your latest products on television? ATV's 2014 Ad Easy package is the right choice for you. Our promotion reaches as far as the Pearl River Delta region and southern China, and our price starts at just $68,000. Call 2992-8890 or our mainland hotline now.
The government has denied shirking its responsibility by leaving it up to district councils to deal with shopfront extensions that block pavements.
Lawmakers are worried about unfair exemptions being granted and want all shop owners to be treated equally. Emily Sue reports.
Many store owners battling high rents have tried to maximize space by placing products outside their premises, a practice which blocks pavements. This has triggered a flood of complaints about road access and safety. A 4-month consultation on measures to tackle shopfront extensions was launched 10 days ago, and its proposals include a $1,500 fixed penalty for shop owners who obstruct pavement space. Legislators on the Home Affairs panel today slammed the guidelines in the consultation document as unclear and unfair. They argued that the proposals leave it to district councils to recommend which shops should be punished or exempted if its distinct characteristics contribute to the area's vibrancy. Cultural sector lawmaker Ma Fong-kwok warned that the government could face greater trouble by tolerating some stores and not others. Currently, some flower shops are allowed to use up to a meter of storefront space during the Lunar New Year. Wu Chi-wai of the Democratic Party accused the government of shirking its responsibility by relying on district councils to monitor the problem, pointing out that shop owners and pedestrians will be confused if rules differ from one street to another. Wu wants shops penalized if they block more than 10% of the pavement. Home Affairs Minister Zhang Dak-sing dismissed the allegation that the government is taking a hands-off approach. He insisted that district councils will only play an advisory role and only the government will have the final say on any exemptions. The consultation ends in mid-July. Emily Sue, ATV News.
The government has dismissed lawmakers' allegations that up to 100,000 tonnes of waste plastics may have ended up in Hong Kong's landfills last year.
But first, in a roundup of local news, the Housing Authority will sell a batch of vacant public housing units in Tai O, with the cheapest priced at $640,000. Here's Arthur Urquiola.
85 vacant public housing flats in Lung Ting Estate in Tai O will be sold as home ownership scheme units by the middle of the year. The Housing Authority said today the flats, measuring about 480 square feet each, will be converted from public to subsidized housing and sold for between $640,000 and $900,000. The chairman of the authority's subsidized housing group, Wang Yunfai, is confident that all the converted flats will be snapped up. Applications will start in June, and ballots will be drawn in August, with the authorities saying the homes will be ideal for retired people who wish to escape the hustle and bustle of the city, or young people who work at home. Legislators on the Environmental Affairs panel say there's a big difference between the amount of imported and exported waste plastics last year. Some claim that as much as 100,000 tons of waste plastics shipped to Hong Kong for reprocessing to increase value may have ended up in the city's 3 landfills. But Environment Undersecretary Christine Low rejected the claim, saying such a discrepancy would have been spotted in the landfill records. She also dismissed suggestions to close the waste plastic recovery trade altogether. The liquid inside these test tubes looks like a luminous chemical used in glow sticks, but it's more than that. This material is called AIE, aggregation-induced emission, and it was invented by researchers at the University of Science and Technology to track cancer cells in the body. Chris Lung, a chemistry researcher, said AIE is more dense than other materials used to monitor cancer cells, and so can stay longer inside cancer cells, even when they start spreading. The liquid is still being tested on animals, but once proven safe for human use, it can help lower medical costs significantly. Arthur Urquiola, ATV News.
Time now for sports with Bo Lang.
And has Spain's El Clasico lived up to its name?
Indeed, they were 7 goals, 1 hat-trick and 1 red card. Lionel Messi scored 3 times to help Barcelona beat 10-man Real Madrid 4-3 and revive their hopes of remaining Spanish champions. Spanish league leaders Real Madrid hosted bitter rivals Barcelona and fell behind after only 7 minutes when Andres Iniesta found the top corner of the net. Karim Benzema then levelled the score by heading in a cross from Angel Di Maria in the 20th minute. The French international put Real in front 4 minutes later, again with the help of Di Maria. But Argentine Lionel Messi equalised for Barca before half-time. When play resumed, Cristiano Ronaldo picked himself up after he was brought down in the box to score with his kick 3-2 to Real. But the tables were turned when Real were reduced to 10 men. Sergio Ramos was sent packing for fouling Neymar. Messi stepped up to take the penalty and levelled the tie. He completed his hat-trick with another penalty in the 84th minute as Barcelona celebrated a 4-3 victory. For Messi, the goals took his tally to 236, making him the 2nd highest scorer in La Liga history. He's also the top marksman in Clasico matches, with 21 goals to his name. Real's neighbour Atletico Madrid defeated Real Betis, who had Brian Rodriguez sent off. Gabi netted Atletico's first of the match in the 58th minute. Diego Costa made it 2-0 shortly after to take the club to the top of the table, with Real slipping to 2nd and Barcelona just 1 point behind them. In tennis, the big names, including Andy Murray and Roger Federer, have cruised into the last 16 of the Sony Open in Miami. Defending champion Andy Murray was firmly in control under the scorching Florida sun, taking the first set of his 3rd-round clash with Spaniard Feliciano Lopez. Under the watchful eye of his former coach Ivan Lendl, the British #1 won the match in straight sets with this backhand return. Swiss maestro Roger Federer also eased into the 4th round of the tournament. The 17-time Grand Slam winner had no trouble seeing off Dutchman Timo de Backer 6-3, 6-3. After a shaky start, Joe Wilfried Tsonga recovered from a set-down against wildcard Marcus Baghdatis of Cyprus. The Frenchman advanced 4-6, 7-6, 7-5. And 4th seed David Ferrer of Spain took only 17 minutes to knock out Italian Andrea Seffi in straight sets. A look at the weather before we go. It was cool this morning, but mainly fine during the day. Temperatures range from 16.6 to 23.1 degrees, while the relative humidity was between 57 and 81%. Winds were moderate to fresh coming in from the east. Let's check on the ultraviolet reading. The maximum recorded for the day was 8. Tomorrow's UV index will be around 8 as well. Now for a look at the weather in the region. A northeast monsoon is affecting the coastal areas of Guangdong. And now the satellite images. It's mainly fine over the coastal regions of southeastern China. Here's what we can expect over the next few days. Sunny period tomorrow with mist at night. Temperatures will range from 17 to 24 degrees. Humid and foggy in the following couple of days. Here are the latest pollution readings under the Air Quality Health Index. General stations are at 4 to 6, meaning the health risk is moderate. Roadside levels are at 5 to 6, and the health risk is moderate. Finally, here's the weather around the world.
That's our main news for Monday night. We'll have an update in 1 hour. I'm Edna.
I'm Bolone.
And I'm Brittyn Clennett. Thanks for watching ATV. Good night.
Good night.
Coming up, Drive It. Four celebrities battling for the MasterChef crown, taking challenge to make delicacies. That needs enthusiasm, but also techniques. Who can stay and who's going home? This competition, only talent can survive. Celebrity MasterChef 7, tonight at 9. Current events, controversial issues, in-depth accounts of the latest news and happenings that impact us all. Get to the heart of the matter. Get the inside story. Tuesday evening at 6:55. When it comes to rice dishes, the choices are countless. These dishes are rare in different countries, but one thing is the same. There must be a big celebration for the heavy harvest. A fruitful year is worth all efforts. All About documentary, Rice is Life, Thursday night at 10:05. Hong Kong Asian Pop Music Festival 2014, the 4th year, more surprise. Top artists from 7 different regions bring you a splendid feast of music. Immerse yourselves into the magnificence of music culture. Discover the next supernova of Asian pop. Hong Kong Asian Pop Music Festival 2014, Friday night at 8, live on Asia Channel. Love it? Say it. Discover the latest and the hottest trends in Japan. Feel the pulse of the vibrant and fabulous culture. JP Time TV, every Sunday night at 6:25. Soccer Fever, Amazing March. Hearts vs Hibernian, Sunday night at 7:45, live on World Channel. Watch the live show on your phone and ATV website.
Hello and welcome to Drive It, the DW Car Show. Coming up, we put the 4 Series Coupe through its paces. Check out the Fiat 500L. And revel in a ride with the Golf R.
Ich bin heute hier in der Kälte.